terrified after an early morning explosion in Windsor that flattened an entire home.
The fact that we felt this violent rattling and we weren't even their neighbors, it was insane to me. It was straight out of a movie.
The sound, the smoke, the flames, the latest on what police are describing as a suspicious explosion.
Covers any portion of the license plate, you've actually violated the Highway Traffic Act.
A growing number of Ontario drivers are using license plate covers, posing serious safety risks. Plus, polar plunging for 100 days straight, all to help families struggling to pay their hydro bills.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight in Windsor, where police are investigating what they call a suspicious house explosion. We have some images posted on social media. You can see there is virtually nothing left of the home, just a huge response from emergency crews. This is the Forest Glade neighborhood in Windsor. Police say they were called there just after 4 a.m. and immediately shut down the area. This video was taken by a resident who lives nearby. She says she was woken from sleep when she felt her house shaking.
My whole house was shaking, so I woke up from it. And we looked again in our backyard, and just to the left where we weren't looking at first, there was this huge fire. And that's when I thought, oh my God, something bad happened. And the first thing I thought about was people, is anyone hurt? Did they get out on time? So yes, that was exactly what happened. And we stood there watching the fire, being unable to do anything. The fact that we felt this violent rattling and we weren't even their neighbors, it was insane to me. It was straight out of a movie.
There are still a lot of questions. Windsor Fire and Rescue Services says natural gas has been isolated to the property where the explosion happened and that investigators are conducting a thorough analysis of what caused the explosion. At this point, police say no injuries have been reported. There is little official information yet about the homeowners. Again, much more to come on this story. Meantime, a 37-year-old man is dead. Another is facing charges after a high-speed crash in Etobicoke. Early this morning, around 4:30, police say a pickup truck was following an SUV when both vehicles lost control and crashed. The pickup truck rolled while the SUV smashed into a backyard, careening into a tree. The 37-year-old man was driving the SUV. He died on scene. You can see a memorial is now standing there. The man driving the pickup truck is facing multiple charges. And in Oakville, a fire has killed a woman and a dog. Crews arrived at a townhouse near 6th Line and Upper Middle Road just before 6:30, finding heavy smoke and flames. Another person was sent to hospital but has now been released. What led to that fire is now under investigation. Well, police in Toronto say some drivers are using license plate covers to confuse speed and red light cameras. Data shows the number of tickets issued for obstructed plates has more than doubled since 2018. You can buy them in store and online, but as Tyler Cheese explains, all covers, even the clear ones, are a violation.
Faraz Golizada says speeding is a huge issue on Parkside Drive where he lives.
You got all sorts of speeds. You got some people that do obey the 40-kilometer-hour speed limit, but you got lots of people that don't, and you can get speeds over 100 kilometers per hour.
The problem came to a head in 2021 when a speeding driver caused a multiple vehicle collision that killed an elderly couple.
It was a horrific crash, not the type of scene you expect to see.
He says this speed camera was installed soon after the crash, but now many drivers have found a way to avoid being ticketed.
It's unfortunate. It shows the limitations of tools like this.
License plates with tinted or colored plastic can prevent traffic cameras from capturing the plate number. It also makes things more difficult for police.
It's a big problem when we can't see a license plate or when someone's involved in a collision and flees the scene and their plate isn't recorded.
Police data shows the amount of tickets written for obstructed license plates has jumped in recent years from about 5,500 in 2018 to more than twice that in 2022. The majority of the tickets are for plates covered by dirt or mud, but police say any obstruction is a violation.
If it covers any portion of the license plate, you've actually violated the Highway Traffic Act, and you're eligible for a ticket of $110.
That includes clear covers and frames provided by dealerships. Police say drivers are responsible for the covers even though they're sold legally online and in stores.
You can buy them legally, but if it is tinted, coated, restricting visibility, dirty, that is certainly an offense, and you could be charged with that.
As for Golizada, he has a message for those that use the covers.
These are people's lives that are at stake. You don't need to get to your destination a few seconds quicker and risk those people's lives when everyone can get to the destination safely instead.
Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Thursday is Budget Day in Ontario. The province continues facing criticism over its plans to develop the Greenbelt and build Highway 413. Meg Roberts has more on one group's very public campaign about to kick off this week.
On TTCs across the city, as well as Brampton Transit, you may notice this poster created by the David Suzuki Foundation. It's an advertisement against proposed Highway 413.
What we're trying to emphasize in this new advertising campaign is what a fantastic waste of taxpayers' dollars it is.
An election promise Premier Doug Ford made back in 2021, a highway that would run 59 kilometers from Vaughan to Milton, north of Toronto.
Try to get through Brampton and to Brampton in rush hour in the morning and night. It's an absolute nightmare.
But the project has been widely criticized as the highway will chew up parts of the Greenbelt and pave thousands of acres of farmland. Environmentalists also say instead of incentivizing car use, the money could be spent on better public transportation.
There's a lot of really important things we could do with that money if we weren't building Highway 413.
The province still has not released how much the highway would cost. $8 billion is what the David Suzuki Foundation estimates. The province says it's committed to building the highway, which would save commuters up to a half hour. Some say the highway is necessary for the province's growth. The government estimates the Greater Golden Horseshoe area is projected to attract 1 million people every 5 years.
Really what Highway 413 will do is going to ensure that we are adding more capacity, we're building for the future, and we are facilitating that economic environment for Ontarians to prosper.
This Thursday, Ford's PC government will table its budget. It's unclear if there is money for Highway 413 included. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre outlining his plan aimed at relieving staff shortages in healthcare. He says he wants to make it easier for doctors and nurses trained overseas to get jobs here.
There'll be one standardized testing system. Within 60 days of an immigrant or a foreign-trained Canadian applying to work in their profession, they will be able to do the exam and get a yes or no based on their competency, not based on where they come from.
He says the decision on whether to join the system would be up to each province and territory, but he says the key incentive would be the chance to boost staffing. Well, people coming together in Oakville to remember a cyclist struck and killed.
It's always a very, very sad event when we have a death of somebody on any of our roads for whatever reason, whether it's a driver or a cyclist or a pedestrian. And it's important for us to mark that and look for ways to make our roads safer.
Cyclists and biking advocates gathering to pay their respects and call for better road safety. A man riding his bike along Upper Middle Road was hit by a four-door vehicle on March 9th. He later died in hospital. Police still haven't released his name or his age. Thousands of migrant workers and supporters right across the country protesting this weekend to demand status for all.
And thousands are hitting the streets, calling on the Prime Minister to ensure equal rights for all and ensure full and permanent immigration status for all migrants and undocumented people without exclusion and without delay.
The rally was organized by Migrant Workers Alliance for Change. Rallies were held in 6 Canadian cities to mark International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. In Toronto, people marched from Christie Pitts to Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland's office. They're calling for permanent resident status for all migrants, refugees, and undocumented people. Now, in a statement to CBC, a spokesperson for the Ministry of Immigration had this to say. They continue continue to make progress to build on existing pilot programs to explore ways of regularizing status for undocumented workers who are contributing to Canadian communities. They say Minister Fraser recently met with approximately 100 undocumented migrants to hear from them directly and will continue to listen to experts as well as undocumented workers themselves. Some of the sights and sounds from the 34th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade in downtown Toronto. Thousands lining the streets to see marching bands, community groups, schools, and all sorts of organizations taking part and to celebrate Irish history, culture, and heritage.
It's been a while since I've been at the parade, so it's my first time back at the parade today. So I am part Irish, so that's why I came down today to celebrate.
Some Irish Canadians are here. I like their culture. I've been here to support them. And I heard that some firefighters are going to be coming on this way. So I'm here to see all this party.
And so
it's my first time in Toronto, so I wanted to experience the St. Patrick's Day.
I'm of Irish heritage. My parents came from Ireland, and I came here to support the great people of Toronto for the parade today.
did you celebrate a lot throughout the weekend?
Yes, for sure. I definitely celebrated lots over the weekend.
This year's sports broadcaster for the Toronto Raptors and TSN, Jack Armstrong, was honored with the title of the Grand Marshal of the 2023 St. Patrick's Day Parade. You needed your woolly hats and like your heavy sweaters for this parade. You know, people turned out though, thank goodness, and bundled up.
Oh, it looked awesome. Looked like a lot of fun. Classic St. Patrick's Day weather, though. You're either wearing green shorts and t-shirts or you're wearing a green parka, right? Classic spring equinox weather, folks. That's it. We made it. We're here. Winter is officially done as of 5:24 p.m. tomorrow. Spring, we are welcoming it after a very winter-like weekend. The last few of the dozen or so snow showers that came through the region are just clearing right now out of the Ottawa and Cornwall region. Clearing, feeling like -8 into the overnight. Now it'll be breezy into the overnight period and into your first day of spring, Monday. But it's a breezy, mild, southerly flow, welcoming in seasonal temperatures for the first time in a few days. -1, plenty of sunshine when you wake up on a spring-like Monday morning for the dog walk or for the school bus stop. Monday afternoon, actually a degree or two above seasonal. Clouds coming into your Monday afternoon. And clouds stick around Tuesday for yet another mild day. Enjoy it while you can because a boundary will be coming in just to the north of us. That will mean a wet and a wild Wednesday. Shannon, now I'll tell you more about what the first week of spring has in store coming up in the long range. Maybe a little bit more winter.
Oh boy. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Always a surprise.
To Old Montreal next, and that terrible fire that broke out at a building. Officials say 6 people are still unaccounted for, and there are so many questions left remaining. Sarah Levitt is there.
Stone by stone, crews start the delicate task of dismantling this burned building, aiming to make it safe for investigators to get inside. The Heritage Building in Old Montreal went up in flames early Thursday. More than 100 firefighters worked to save those inside. 9 people were taken to hospital. 7 others were declared missing. The remains of 1 person have now been recovered.
We have succeeded in extracting the first victim at 6:45 this afternoon. Steps to identify this victim will be taken by our partner of the Laboratory of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine.
Police are still looking for the other 6 and say they are presumed dead. 18-year-old Charlie Lacroix was staying here with a friend. Her grandfather, Robert Lacasse, says he was told she made a call to 911 as the fire raged within the building. Come find us, he recounts, because there are no windows where we are. He says her second call to 911 cut out. She probably died then or soon after, Lacasse said, as he was overcome with emotion. Lacroix was staying in one of several illegal Airbnbs in the building. They're prohibited in that area of Old Montreal. Alina Kuzmina says she was also staying in one, but managed to escape the fire.
We started seeing the orange flames and the orange light from underneath the door.
in the sound of crackling fire.
She says neither of the 2 fire alarms in her unit went off.
My husband grabbed a boot and smashed the window, and we got out through that.
Over the weekend, more loved ones of the missing visited the scene. Some left overcome by what they saw, a tragedy they're trying to overcome. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Embattled bank Credit Suisse is being sold. The buyer's fellow Swiss bank, UBS. The agreement came today, orchestrated by Swiss regulators. The deal is set to close by year's end. U.S. officials applauding the move, as is the Bank of England. Credit Suisse shares lost a quarter of their value in a week after the collapse of 2 U.S. banks. UBS pays $3.23 billion U.S. and assumes up to $5.4 billion in losses. You're looking at Woodbine Beach, a popular spot over the March break. The Winter Stations public art exhibition is back. We caught up with some youngsters exploring this year's creations.
I think it was awesome, too.
We are so close, and the first time we're here.
What's been your favorite so far?
This one. I think it's cool that makes sounds. Love them. I'm so happy we got to see them because I was worried that when we got here they wouldn't be still up. So we're so happy that we got to see them. Our favorite's the raccoon. We love that one. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What do you love about the raccoon?
The ears.
Why do you think people like in Toronto love raccoons so much?
Not sure.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure.
It's a mystery. Well, you heard it there. The crowd pleaser is Conrad. We met the 2 Toronto designers behind the project.
We were always aware of the winter stations going on, and it was like this really fun activity that happened every year on the Toronto beaches. It's not that we had this idea and said, oh, we have to participate. We just kind of said, oh, let's try coming up with something that the people of Toronto would love.
That was one of those random stories, but I just think of like the flowers. Like it was kind of ridiculous, but also sweet, you know?
It's one of those things. I mean, the original Conrad story was back in 2015, so it's quite a few years ago, but it's very relevant. Like I still remember it quite well. And that's what we really wanted to capitalize on in this whole thing, is this idea of using like humor. It is a sweet story and kind of a funny story that it oddly brought people together. One of the things we find super fascinating so far, we've heard from others that have actually like started creating a new vigil around the new Conrad, the Winter Stations Conrad. And like just seeing how that sort of thing comes together organically is really fascinating. As an artist, being able to plant something, which is the installation, and seeing how people react, that's something that we've really found interesting in the whole process.
Conrad, like you said, it was 2015, but we all still remember that, even though we've gone through the blur of the pandemic and everything else. But what is it, do you think, about Conrad's story that people just gravitate towards?
For one thing, I think it definitely helps that like everybody has like a funny raccoon anecdote. You know, they're like these little chubby guys that you see digging around in the trash, almost like a kind of mascot for the city. So I mean, I think that's one thing. And I guess Conrad, that one raccoon, is almost like he's every raccoon in a sense. I think also maybe people just want some kind of fun story that they can talk about. You go to work, you're at the water cooler, and you're like, oh, you hear about the raccoon? And they're putting flowers by his body. It's just kind of fun. And I think people want to have fun.
You remembered him from 7 years ago, and now he's kind of like getting this second run and having, I'm sure, new fans as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it really is one of those things where, as much as we say it's a light, kind of humorous project, it really is like people really do care. There's something that to be honest, me and Novak don't really even know what it is that has drawn the city of Toronto to raccoons, and in particular Conrad. It's this funny thing we've talked about and tried to understand. I don't know exactly what it is. Does every city need a hero or a myth to get behind? Maybe Conrad is the one of Toronto. And yeah, it's lighthearted, but people really do care. So it's something fascinating.
Very brave. Group of Torontonians have completed 100 straight days of polar plunges. They started the challenge back in December to raise money for families struggling to pay their hydro bills.
Today's our 100th dip. A lot of people ask if they get easier. I wouldn't say that they necessarily get easier, but you definitely do get tougher along the way.
Surprisingly, we went in there and we were laughing and smiling.
It's been amazing so far. Every day is different. You don't always want to get in the water, but you're glad that you did it.
And they look like they're having fun. The group has raised more than $7,000. The money will go to 14 families in need. Organizers say the fundraiser will stay active for at least another week. Sophia's
Some
here.
happy, warm faces there.
Yeah, not at all. Well, they were happy, but it wasn't warm. And I'm trying to do the math in my head. What are we, 17 hours till spring, if I can count that correctly?
I wish I had counted it down to the minute for us. Would have been nice to do the polar dip in the spring. I will always follow the polar dip stories, won't I? Because you know I'm a big fan of them. Only a matter of time before I'm doing one on TV. Spring, in a matter of hours, we have done it, folks. We have made it through a wild, especially last few weeks of winter. Enjoy the first week of spring, and mild will be the theme for the next few days of spring. Plenty of sunshine for the first couple days with seasonal temperatures. Then we mentioned some active weather come Wednesday. Enjoy some bluebird skies as well for the next 24 hours before that boundary moves in to our north around cottage country. And what it's going to mean is a few impulses of rain setting up. Light showers throughout your early part of your day Wednesday. Heavier rain Wednesday evening and into Thursday, where there will be a second impulse of the wet and wild weather. A sign of spring, though, with mild temperatures and double digits. So that'll be a nice change. Both Tuesday and Thursday, quite mild, especially multiple days of double-digit temperatures further to the south and to the west, and even around the Golden Horseshoe. But I want you to pay attention into next weekend. The potential is there for a high-impact Colorado low to maybe bring us another taste of winter-like weather. It's still far out and low confidence, but it's certainly one that we are closely watching as an active storm track is setting up. But we still have a lot of good spring weather to get through before that,
true.
Shannon.
Colorado low, though, I always cringe when I hear that one. You know, it could be bad.
Especially into spring, it could be a doozy. And those poor flowers that will start to sprout.
That's true. We want the flowers. Okay, Sophia, thank you so much.
See you next week.
That's our show for you tonight. We're so glad you're with us. Happy first day of spring tomorrow, and happy Nowruz to all of those celebrating Persian New Year. We'll see you again next week. We leave you now with some more of the fun from the St. Patrick's Day Parade.